everyone, it's Mio, and today I have another tutorial for you. I'm going to show you how to make these Pusheen shaker charms. I know they kind of have the holiday spirit in them, and I was hoping I could get this video out before the holiday season, but the holidays have been crazy, so here's my tutorial now. As you can see, I made two different shaker charms. This Pusheen shaker charm has clear glue in it. It's a little more viscous, and the other one actually has glitter and water inside, so you can pick out which one you want to make, but they're fairly easy to create, so I hope you enjoy this tutorial. For more like these, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and let's just go ahead and get this tutorial started, shall we? So to start, I'm going to show you how to make the cute little Pusheen charms in the center, and I actually made little sugar cookies. So I'm going to start off with some polymer clay, and I'm going to go ahead and just condition the clay in my hands and roll it into a small ball and flatten it out like you would with regular sugar cookies. So I want this to be about 1 millimeter thick, and then I'm going to go ahead and shape out the basic shape of my Pusheen cookie. So for this one, I'm going to show you how to make a piece of candy. I'm just taking a tool and I'm kind of tracing out the outline of what my cookie cutter kind of cookie is going to look like, and with the blade I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but I would just go ahead and try your best to make it as neat and as clean as possible. So this is what my candy shape looks like. As you can see, it's really rough around the edges, but I'm just going to take my hand and my clay tools and just smooth out all the edges. Keep in mind that all of my charms are fairly small because I want them to fit into the shaker mold. So you want to make sure all your charms are about 1 to 1.5 centimeter in terms of size. And once you're happy with the basic cookie shape of your mold that you're trying to create, like mine's a candy here, you can go ahead and bake them in the oven for about 10 minutes or so. So here is the candy cookie, sugar cookie that I created, and I created a few more. As you can see here, I made a Christmas tree, a few Pusheen presents, a candy cane, and cooked them in the oven. And what I'm going to do for the icing is use some Sculpting ultra light clay, and I like to use this clay because this clay is very soft, and it makes it very easy to create the icing. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the pieces together while my sugar cookies are cooking, and I'm going to use some liquid Sculpting clay. I prefer to use transparent, but you can use white if you want, and just kind of do half and half and mix the two together. You don't want too much transparent clay, otherwise it will be too goopy and lose its shape. And to color the icing, I'm just using regular paint. I'm going to use a little bit of red to create some pink one. I use a little bit of green to make a mint green color. And just with a toothpick, just mix the color in until you get the desired color that you want. And this is going to form the icing that you put on top of your sugar cookie. So once you're happy with your frosting colors, you can take your faked cookies out of the oven, and they should be nice and stiff, and you can hold them without changing the shape. And with the toothpick, you can go ahead and pick up the frosting colored clay that you created and gently spread it around the cookie. It does take a lot of time to spread this clay on so it looks really nice and clean. If you're really not happy with how it looks, just take a clean toothpick just to gently spread the clay around to the areas that you really want to cover. So this is what my cookies look like so far after I put in the base layer. You can see there's no details. I went ahead and baked it in the oven for another 10 minutes, and now I'm coming back and putting on clay on top of my sugar cookies to add on the finite details before I bake them in the oven one last time. So for my Pusheen cat, you can see I created the little face. I added some Christmas decorations to it. You can add whatever it is that you want to your sugar cookies. So this is what they look like after I'm completely done, and I baked them in the oven for another 10 minutes. So these sugar cookie charms are now ready to go in my shaker mold. Now I realize there's a lot of different ways to make sugar cookies made from polymer clay. This is just how I prefer to make it. If you want to make yours differently with UV resin or a different type of clay mold, you can. I just think this looks really realistic, and I really like how they turned out, so I hope you find this technique useful. Moving on to the actual shaker mold itself, you're going to need a mold. I bought this one online, and as you can see here, there's a top and bottom to this mold, and I'm actually going to fill it in with UV resin. You can use regular resin, it just takes a really long time to sit and let it set. I'm not that patient, so I'm just going to use UV resin. So this one's a heart shape, and I'm using this UV resin here. You can buy it online. I actually bought mine on Amazon. And you're just going to fill up the mold, I would say at least 3/4 of the way full. If you fill it all the way up to the top, you're going to have a lot of extra UV resin that's leaking on the side. But you really want to make sure that you get all of the edges. Place the top part of the mold gently in, press it down to get as many bubbles as you can out of the mold before you put it under your UV light. I put mine in for about 1 minute. And this is what my mold looks like. So when I pop it out, as you can see, I still had a lot of excess UV resin that just kind of comes out on the side, and that's okay. I'm just going to take some scissors, or you can use your hands and just break off all the extra pieces that don't belong in your mold. So this really only creates 1/2 of your mold. You're going to have to repeat this process again so that you have 2, and when you put the 2 together, you'll notice that your shaker mold kind of comes into play here. So I created a heart here. I actually have stars as well, and you're going to need some things to put in your shaker mold, whether it's beads, glitters, different little charms. I ended up using the star mold for mine because it just looked really cute, but you can use whatever mold you want. I've seen a few different ones online. I've seen like seashells, squares, circles, and things like that. So here is the star mold, and I'm going to go ahead and start decorating it. So I have a really pretty snowflake sequin here, and to keep things in place, I love shaker molds and I love that everything moves around, but there's a few things that I don't want to move, and I kind of don't want this snowflake to move around too much and cover my sugar cookies, so I'm using some clear UV resin to hold it in place. And the same thing for my sugar cookies. I'm going to put my sugar cookies and arrange it in a way where it will fit into my shaker mold, but I actually don't want it to actually move in my shaker mold because the back of my sugar cookies are plain, and I want you to be able to see my little sugar cookies that I spent so much time making. So what I'm going to do is take some clear UV resin, kind of UV resin them together for about 30 seconds into the shape I want, and go ahead and UV resin them into the mold so that they don't move. And then everything else in the mold will move around it, but you will always see my Pusheen and my Christmas sugar cookies in one spot. So this is what it looks like so far, and as you can see, I'm moving the mold around, and it's really not moving in the shaker mold. So the tricky part here is really filling your mold with a fluid. So before I pick out my fluid, I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with some beads. I'm using some silver beads here, which I kind of wish I didn't because silver actually tarnishes over a period of time, but it looks really pretty without any fluid at this time. So once you're happy with the beads, I'm going to go ahead and put the mold together. So I'm just going to take some generous amount of clear UV resin, put it around the edges, and make sure you do a really good job with this because you're going to put a fluid in the mold and you don't want that fluid to leak out of your mold. So make sure you put a generous coat covering all of the edges and surfaces of your mold. Put the two together, UV resin it for at least a minute, and then this is what my mold looks like. I actually put on a second coat at the edges just to make sure I didn't miss any gaps before I filled my mold. So these molds actually have a built-in small little hole for you to fill in the fluid. I'm using some clear glue, and I used a pipette to slowly inject the clear glue. It actually took me quite some time before I filled it all the way to the top. And before I sealed the top closed, I put it in a small eyelet so I can turn this into a charm, put some UV resin there, and that's pretty much how I made this mold. So this mold itself, the shaker mold, has clear glue in it, and as you can see, it's much more viscous, so the beads kind of fall in very slowly, which I think is kind of neat. Sometimes things like glitter and beads can fall too quickly if you have water, and it comes out very, very clear. In the second mold, as you can see, I actually use water and glue, which is also very pretty, and you can see the stuff move faster, but as you can see, it's not as clear as the clear glue. You can see the sugar cookies actually much more clearly in the clear glue. So I hope you can figure out which one you like, or you can create both and decide for yourself which one you prefer to fill yours up with. I actually kind of prefer the clear glue a little bit more than just regular water. And that, guys, is pretty much how I created these really two cute sugar cookie Pusheen Christmas shaker molds. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. For more like these, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And do stay tuned for more tutorials. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys soon and enjoy the holiday break. Bye!